അവിടുന്ന് മണ്ണിറ മണത്തിൽ എന്നോട് മാനസികമായിട്ടുള്ള
Hey everyone, it's Sam, and welcome back to the 911 Nonsense podcast. To stay in the loop, learn about upcoming guests, and join in the conversations with the Noon community, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And hey, if you like what you hear in this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world to us. Tiffany Cannon, a nurse and LVAD recipient, shares her powerful story of developing heart failure after childbirth and her journey back into nursing. Now specializing in nephrology, Tiffany uses her personal experience to advocate for patients, educate first responders, and inspire others living with heart conditions. Her story is one of resilience, purpose, and the power of compassion in healthcare. Let's get started. Hey guys, are you looking for a top-notch first aid kit? Look no further than Jump Medic. Owned by a seasoned paramedic with over a decade of EMS experience, their kits are user-friendly and packed with essential supplies. From the most popular Pro Gen 2 to the compact hardshell kit, they've got you covered. You can even customize your own kit with the Build-A-Bag option. Enter the code NOON10, N-O-O-N, the number 10, and enjoy 10% off your order. Free U.S. shipping, and everything is HSA FSA approved. Visit jumpmedic.com and follow at JumpMedicUSA on Instagram. Stay prepared with Jump Medic. All right, Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us on the Noon podcast. How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. Very wonderful. Thanks for asking.
You got it. And I'm so glad that you are here today and about to share your story with us. I'm so pumped. You have such a unique story, and I'm so excited to get to share this with the people that listen to the podcast. But before we get there, can I go ahead and get a quick intro?
Yes, you can. First, I want to say I'm very honored for being on here. It's such a privilege. I do not take this for granted. But yes, I am Tiffany Cannon. I am currently a nurse. I'm actually serving in the role of nephrology. I've been doing that for 5 years. Have experience in med surge and also oncology and gerontology. But nephrology is kind of where I landed, and I'm loving it. I'm loving my patients and everything. But I've been a nurse for almost 10 years now. And as you said, I do have a unique story because not only am I a nurse, but I'm also a patient. I am an LVAD recipient. Um, about 7 years ago, I gave birth to my beautiful uh, little girl, and during my time of when I got induced, they ended up discovering that I was going into heart failure. Wasn't giving any signs, didn't have any symptoms, but eventually it led to me being in the hospital for almost a month and receiving an LVAD. So since then, I had to learn how to walk again, eat, do all these things, and I ended up coming back into nursing. And so I've been taking this experience, not just using it as a woe it's me, but seeing what I could do, being on the patient side, how that can really help me as a nurse moving forward.
Yeah, and there's so much opportunity there to just say, "Oh, okay, well, I'm done, right? Like I'm done with work, I'm done with life, everything's basically over." What gave you the will to keep going and especially to continue being a nurse?
Yes, so I always tell people this funny story. When I was in the hospital, and mind you, during this time, I'm still in ICU, been intubated, extubated twice, and they're not really knowing, what my capabilities was going to be after receiving the LVAD. And the social worker comes in, and she comes in with all these papers and like, hey, we got to get this started, get this rolling. So by the time you get out the hospital, we can have this done. I'm like, get what started? And she said, your disability. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she said, well, when you get out of here, you're going to need disability because you're not going to be able to work. And I'm like, wait. What do you mean I'm not going to be able to work? And she was like, well, normally, typically, after people have this type of surgery and go through this, you don't work anymore. You'll easily get qualified for disability. And I said, well, no, I don't want to do that. I really want to be able to go back to work. And mind you, at this time, I could not walk, like, did not have any type of, I was so debilitated, I couldn't walk. But nursing had always been something in my heart that I feel like, you know, it was placing me as a passion and I couldn't see myself giving that up. So I'm just like, even if I had to go to somewhere where I can sit down and nurse or I'm going to find a way. And so after so much push and pull with my social worker, she was like, okay, well, I will send you home with the paperwork. And when you want to fill it out, you can fill it out and put it in, but it may be a long process. And I was like, that's fine. And so I actually, when I finally got home, I'm just like, okay, in my mind, I'm like, I was so confident, but I don't really know how I'm gonna do this. But really, my biggest passion starting out was my family. I realized that, the special case was I had just given birth to my baby girl. And I'm just like, I have to push for her. If I don't push for anybody else, I gotta push for her. Like her mom is here, and I she doesn't know that mommy, just went through a major heart surgery. That mommy maybe can't do this or that. Like all she knows is that I was her mom. So she was my biggest push, and I had a great huge support system. And they basically were just like, whatever you want to do. If you want to build back up to go back to work, you can do that. If you need to sit home and we can be done and we can figure out other ways, we can do that too. My husband gave me one rule, and it was you will not overwork yourself because I am a workaholic. He was like, we're not going back to that. You're gonna take it easy, but you can work. And I said, okay, I will honor that. And me being in the hospital, being a patient, I won't lie to you, Sam. There were things that, I seen some of the nurses did awesome, great work. But then I also seen where I was neglected. Things didn't go right. Things were missed. And I didn't look at it like, oh my gosh, why did y'all do this to me? Y'all should have known this. I looked at it like, when were the times when I did that to a patient? Now that I'm a patient and I'm kind of looking at it on the other side, when did I skip a corner or miss something or didn't take a patient serious on a certain situation and it could have been detrimental? Like, when did I do that? And now, what can I do to help kind of close that gap? And so, the only way I knew was like, I had to get back out there because there's so much learning and so much that I learned being a patient that I can go further with other nurses and people that I come around, and even in my profession of nephrology, of like, what can I use for what I went through to kind of help propel the nursing banner further by me, what I know and what I've experienced.
Sure. And that's a great way to think about it, right? You're so very positive about it. You said there were no signs or symptoms leading into your heart failure. Did you have any family history or anything that would have potentially led you to this heart failure so rapidly?
So yes, I actually have. So heart disease does run in my mom's family, on my mom's side of the family. Um, Not in the pace that it happened to me, but it did. I did have what you call a tachycardia arrhythmia, and just in real simple terms, it's just where my heart would beat extremely fast for no apparent reason. And I had this as a child, and it led me to have to get an ablation on my heart, where they just kind of burnt off a piece in my heart that caused the rapid heartbeat. After I got that done, it led me to have to see a cardiologist once a year, just kind of get checked over. So the biggest thing as I got older was the question of, would I be able to have kids? How would that look on me? How would they do? Because I was in sports, so I had to do a stress test every year to get approved to play sports, and all that went clear. And I remember my doctor said, you've been progressing, everything looks good, you're fine. So the first when I first found out I was pregnant, that was the first person I called, was my cardiologist, and I'm like, hey, get me in as soon as you can. We got some things to talk about because I got to know what to expect. And so when I got in, he did looked at me, looked at my heart, checked all my levels, everything. He was like, you're fine, you're good. Just we'll keep monitoring you and progress on, but you shouldn't have any complications. So I went through my pregnancy, and I seen my cardiologist midway through, and he said that everything was fine. I wasn't really, like, the increase in weight, shortness of breath. I didn't really experience any of that. Besides when I was 8 months pregnant and I'm carrying around a baby, then, it kind of merged to, oh, these are just pregnant symptoms, not knowing my shorter breath or my blood pressure kind of climbing up was a sign of heart failure. I thank God I did have um, a labor and delivery nurse that had been doing this for 30 plus years, and she was also training my actual nurse. She was in training, and when I went in to get induced, they plugged me up and everything, and of course the nurse in training was like, "Oh girl, you look good." I walked in, I talked and like it was nothing. She was like, "You look good. Let's get you ready. We're gonna get you down for you can get your epidural and all that." And the nurse of 30 plus years came in. She looked at my levels and she said, "Nope, something's not right." And I'm looking like, what do you mean? I'm sitting here just looking, whatever. And she was like, nope, I've been on this long enough. Something's not right. And so when I had about two, three people in my room turned into like 10 people of doctors over here talking, and then my nurse over here is like getting stuff done, and then the anesthesiologist over here, and me being in the nursing background, I'm like, okay, something is not right here. Like, what's going on? And that's when they came in and I was like, yeah, something's going on with your heart. We need to stop it because it's like they thought that the medicines that they were giving me was causing my heart to go into heart failure. So they were like, let's stop everything. We're gonna have to have emergency C-section. And right then it was just like, okay, had my emergency C-section, went into ICU. The doctors came into the room where my husband and my mom and them were at, and they were like, yeah, so she's in heart failure. And my mom was like, I think you got the wrong room. We just came in to have a baby, not any of this. So maybe you got a mistake. And they was like, no, it's not a mistake. Her heart is at 5% right now, ejection fraction.
Oh my goodness. 5%?
5%. And they were wondering, like, did she walk in here? And it was like, yeah. She walked in here, did talk like everything. It was like, we don't see how she did that. But yep, I was at 5% and never knew. Never knew.
Wow. So what was the discussion going forward with your care team?
So it was a little pushback on that as well. So after they discovered that I was going into heart failure, the first thing they mentioned was an LVAD. And I said, nope, absolutely not. I don't want that. Count me out. Let's think of something else. So the doctors, they were very lenient on me. They didn't pressure me for anything. They was just like, okay, we think this is your best option, but we will try to do as much as possible to get your heart back. So their goal was they were trying to see if they can get my heart to come back in a small window before they had to do something drastic or technically before I died. So they had tried to they put me on pressors. They tried to do an impella. As they were doing the impella, my kidneys start to fail. So they had to slow down the impella. Slowing down the impella made it to where it just really wasn't working for my heart and was not improving at all. And so then, of course, as my heart is continuing to fail, my body is continually filling up with fluid. So then I get so overfilled with fluid that I couldn't barely breathe. So they put me on high flow oxygen. My sats, me as a nurse, I remember sitting in that ICU room looking at my monitor and I'm seeing like 92, 86, 80, 70, and I'm just like, okay, I shouldn't be walking. I'm like, yeah, something's not right. I'm feeling it, and I'm seeing these numbers going down. And so they end up eventually had to intubate me. Um, and my mom told me, which I just cannot believe, but she was like, Tiffany, you were asking for it. You were like, I'm at the point now I cannot breathe. I am drowning. Y'all are gonna have to intubate me. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is such a nurse of me to sit here and tell the doctors like this is the next step. Like, come on, just get it in there. So they ended up having to intubate me, and then they started me on life support. And of course, at this time, I'm unaware of what's going on. They put me in a coma, a sedative coma, and they were telling my family like, "Hey, we on a time clock now, and it's gonna really be up to her." Like, we tried everything that can kind of help, try to push her. They gave me medications and everything. It was like, but her heart was failing for 9 months since she's been pregnant, and trying to get it back right in a couple of days, it's not going to happen. And so something I tell everybody, I was against it, and surprisingly, my family was standing by me. I'm like, I couldn't imagine if I knew something that could be done to kind of help y'all, and you say no, and I'm just watching you just kind of basically slowly dig in the grave, and I'm just like, okay, it's what they want. I was like, y'all are better than me because I was like, what I need from my husband, yep, give it to him. But they were just kind of like, we were hoping that you came around, and we were just kind of just literally watching you, just trying to see what what's gonna be the next step. So I tell everybody I was in a sedative coma, and it just something came over me. I believe I'm a true Christian, believe in God, and He told me it's time for you to get the heart mate. And so they were winging me off the sedation. So I remember waking up and I see my mom like looking right in my face, and I'm signaling to her that I'm ready for the heart mate. And she was like, are you saying yes to the heart mate? And I put my thumbs up. So she ran out there, got my doctor. And my doctor, I remember hearing him while he was coming. He was like, I need to hear her say it. I need to see that this is what she really wants to do. And so he came to my face and he was like, what do you want to do? And I said, and I signaled to him a heart, and I put up a two. At the time, I thought only a heartmate two was out. Didn't realize a heart three was out, but I did a heart signal and a two. And he said, "You ready for the heartmate?" And I held up my thumb. And so he was like, "Okay, well, we're gonna book you in. We're gonna go on and get this started." And within the next morning, I woke up with a heartmate three.
Within the next morning. That is crazy. So, how did you have to adjust to life after it was placed?
Oh my goodness. So, of course, when you're in the hospital, they're changing your dressings. They're doing all the things, to make sure you're staying infection free and everything. So in the hospital, it was just like, okay, this is okay. I can handle this. But getting home and those duties are passed down to you, and you're like, okay, you have to do this now at home. It was a huge adjustment. I'm not even gonna lie, and I tell everybody this. I felt so confident that I don't. They was telling me about therapy. I don't need therapy. I got it. I'm a nurse. I can do this at home. My husband, he was getting trained on changing my dressings. I'm like, do you have it? We good. We go home. We're okay. And I was so far from the truth. The first thing I had to get over was the shame, because it was a big thing. My business plastered all over social media, and I'm the type of person I like to keep everything in. I like my business to stay my business. Everybody else, I can help you with yours, but I'm good with mine. So I had to get over the shame of coming
Why did you
home
feel the shame in that moment, though? Why did you feel that way?
because of the fact that this was supposed to be just a beautiful moment. Everybody's excited, and I'm going in having a baby, and it turned out a month later, almost dying. People have it. It was just so much, and I would say it was a shame on me of just like, Tiffany, this was supposed to be something easy. This is supposed to be something that you just go in, you do good, you come out, and this just turned into something that nobody was expecting. And so after so much of just self-reflecting, praying, I did have to realize, like, Tiffany, is not, it wasn't you. It's okay. It was a purpose in all of this. And like I said, in the beginning, of using this to help with my family life, with my career, like I started seeing that, no, this was you had to go through this. And it's not even just for you, but it's to help other people. And now looking behind the scenes and seeing all the nurses that I've been able to help, all the patients I've been having to help, and I always leave them, when I'm talking to a patient or anything, I always leave them with, or end it with, if I didn't go through what I went through, I probably would have never met you. I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to help you in whatever you're going through, or the sickness that they're going through, or a nurse that is trying to figure out nurse life, and the ways that they can, how they communicate with their patients and stuff. So it took a process of me getting there, because I'm just like, this is too much. Like, this was just supposed to be me coming home with a baby. That's it.
Yeah.
And so it was so much more, So I had to, and like again, I always root of my family of how much support that they gave me. That always some people can tell you all day like it's not your fault, it's okay, but if you don't believe it in yourself, it's just like, oh thanks, but this is how I feel. So it was a journey for me to get over that, and then it's just like now not only my life is adjusted, but now my family life is adjusted because I can't just go up and just like do a random trip. Let's go here. Okay, let's pack up and go. I have to make sure I have my batteries because if for people that don't know, a LVAD is basically a machine that is attached to my heart. My heart is beating, but what the machine does, it helps aid the right side to not work so hard. It delivers the blood to the left side and it allows my left side of my heart to move my blood to all my organs, veins, arteries, everywhere in my body. So it helps that part. But it's off a machine with batteries. So that means I'm on a battery 24/7. I have a actual two batteries that I carry around all day, that I plug into my cassettes, and then when I go to bed at night, I plug into a wall. And that was a big adjustment. I had to make sure that when we're just going, a weekend to Granny's house with my child, I have to make sure, okay, let me get my bag, make sure I have enough batteries, make sure I have my battery charger pack. Let me make sure I have, enough dressing just in case this one gets messed up. Like that, it was so much of a routine that I had to learn. We had to schedule times to where, hey, it's time for me to change my dressing. That was a whole thing to make sure you stay in sterile, because it is important because the cord that's coming out of me is going up to my heart. So that is a big infection risk. Like I can't get an infection. So we had to plan out times of when it's, we got family over. Okay, when the family go and all that, then we can, take time to clean my dressing and everything. So and then on top of that is my diet. With the machine with the machine on my heart that's helping to fluctuate the blood, it can't be any kinks. I can't have any clots or anything going in because if a clot gets in the machine, it can mess it up all together. So I'm on warfarin, which it helps thin my blood. Well, we know there's stuff that can help counteract that. So I got to make sure if I'm going to eat vegetables, I'm going to eat green leafy vegetables. I got to make sure, oh, I got to take now so everybody that's an LVAD recipient, they have a coordinator, and the coordinator helps. Like they look at your INR. We got to get an INR check every week. And so she'll tell you whether or not to increase your warfarin, decrease it. So they know me to be the ones like, hey, yeah, my INR is 1.8. I know it's a little low, so I took an extra dose and everything. So they trust me to know like, okay, I kind of ate a little bit. I decided to eat salads all week. I know to increase my warfare, and I let them know like, hey, yep, my diet was this, so I did that. So I do have a level of trust with my coordinators when it comes to that. But that was a big adjustment. And then just of course, with the machine in me, with the cuts, and I went through 11 surgeries while I was in the hospital. So dealing with pain constantly, and like I said, with the newborn that's growing up, they don't know mommy's in pain, so I need to sit down. Mommy's in pain, so let me not ask her to do this. Like that she doesn't know that. She just knows you're my mommy, and this is what I need from you. And so I had to adjust to that. Like, hey, let's kick it into gear. The pain is just gonna be there. I just gotta know how I can pull through every day with this. It's gonna have to. And then definitely when I went back to work, having to adjust. Okay, going to work, going to the hospital so I can get my INR check. Right now, recently, I got it to where I have a machine that I can check it at home now. Thank God. But at first, it wasn't that. I had to go to the hospital once a week to get my INR check. So I'm like trying to work, trying to go to the hospital, get my INR check, trying to schedule my. I was on a monthly appointment with my heart fairy team, so it was always a schedule. I always had to get a routine together and just completely change everything. And of course, in the beginning, it was so much like, this is so much. Like, why do I have to go through all of this? And then it was just another revelation of like, no, I need to change my perspective. I get to go through this because month or so ago, I wasn't even supposed to be here. And let the doctors tell you, with me being on having a 5% ejection fraction, I wasn't even supposed to make it to the hospital, let
Yeah.
alone go to the hospital, walk in the hospital, deliver my baby, able to go home. So I had to change my perspective of why do I have to do all this to I get to do all of this. I'm still here. So while I'm here, let's make these adjustments. Let me do what I have to do, and I'm going to move on and I'm going to keep living.
That's amazing. What an awesome, awesome, like, and sad story, right? Like, I know it's a sad story, but you in your heart don't play it as a sad story. So that's crazy. And there's a lot of, like, you play it so well, but there's so many other sad stories with LVADs, right? Like, it's
Mhm.
usually a last, well, it used to be. I don't think as much anymore that it's a last ditch effort. I think that it almost sounds like a first go to now since
Yes.
they've had so many
Mhm.
successes with the surgery. With the diet stuff, like I didn't even think about that. But if you are taking warfarin, you're having to monitor your intake of potassium. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you're taking in too
Mhm.
much potassium, too many greens, too many bananas, that kind of stuff, then you will actually counteract the warfarin, and that can cause clots, which you said. That's crazy. Um, wow, 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 wow! What an amazing story. You are in nursing. I'm impressed because you said like nephrology is your specialty. Would you ever consider going into cardiology?
A lot of people ask that because I'm like, and it's so funny because like I said, I do have a history of heart disease in my family. And when I got out of the hospital, of course my family, if if you work in any type of scale of medical field, you have that where your family, they really don't know, but they just think you know everything.
Yes.
No, no, no. We take specialties. So when we take on a specialty, we don't focus on anything else. So when I took on nephrology, I don't focus on any other organ but the kidneys. And so they were just like, "Well, you're a nurse, so you'll be able to get down." I'm like, no, guys, that's not how it works. I didn't take on that. I was like, and my mom was like, with you having so many of your family members with cardiology type things, why do you never take up that? I was like, I don't even know. You would think I would be like, you know what? I already know I'm going to nursing school. I'm being a cardiologist because I have so much going on in my family, but I never took it up. I do enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. Um, and I think I had the best nursing teacher that taught cardiology, and I like that I'm now just kind of learning more about the heart. It's just nephrology kind of got a tug on me. I'm not gonna lie to you. It has a tug on me, and it's really just the patients I encounter and everything. But I'm always learning about the heart, and but now it's more so focused on not so much as to go into the field of cardiology, but how can I help my family? Because, like I said, we do have a history of it. So now we're discovering that there's testing that can be done to see if you have a heart failure marker in you at a young age so that they can start working on, kind of eliminating what can happen when you're older. So I'm very intrigued by cardiology. I'm loving to get educated on it. But if I had to say to go into cardiology altogether, I just I don't know. I love nephrology.
And
I love
what
it.
sparked your love for nephrology?
And the crazy thing is, I was um so before I went into nephrology, I was in oncology. And I went into oncology because my husband's dad had just recently passed away from cancer, multiple myeloma. And it was such a heartbreaking thing for us as a family. And I was just like, you know what? I think I want to go into oncology because I wanted to learn that more. I wanted to, see because what one thing I what hurt me the most is that my husband, they were, and his family, they're asking me questions about what is this and what is that, and I'm like, y'all, I really don't know. All I can do is give you the basics of it, but to go in depth, when I'm not in that field, I don't really know much. And so with all that, I'm just like, I think I really want to go and learn it. That was a bad thing, because of course it just kept bringing up memories, and every time I walked into that building, I thought about my walking my father-in-law in that building, and then seeing the patients, it was a lot on me. It weighed a lot on me. So I got a call from one of my family members, and she was like, "Hey, we have a dialysis opportunity, if you want it." And I'm like, dialysis. I never in my life thought about doing dialysis, working with that. And she's like, "Well, I mean, it's if you want to, whatever." So I thought about it, and I'm like, I mean, I'm young. I can just try it. And if I don't like it, I can go, find something else. So I went into it, and I did acute dialysis in the hospital, and I fell in love. I fell in love. Just being able to see, I had a patient in med surge actually, because our unit on oncology was half oncology, half med surge. So I was dealing with both patients depending on our senses. And I got a patient. Now I'm looking at my oncology patients, and a lot of them were just getting sicker by the day. And I had this one particular patient come in, shortness of breath, fluid everywhere, and they were like, "Yeah, she comes regularly. She just need a dialysis treatment." And I'm just like, "Oh, okay." So the dialysis unit came and got her. She started doing treatments every day, and I'm seeing her like improve to the point where she's walking, she's talking, she's feeling better, she's breathing, she don't need the oxygen. And I'm just like, so dialysis did all that, and it was like, yeah, she just kind of missed a few days, and she needed to get back. So I'm like, okay, so that kind of sparked it a little bit. And then my cousin came in maybe like a month later and told me about this dialysis. So even though I was just kind of like, I never thought about it, but I feel like it was just kind of like how I have this patient that did this, and it kind of like, that kind of intrigues me. And then my family, my cousin, tell me about this dialysis gig. So um, I love seeing how the patients come in, they get back, and there's so much level of education that you could provide for a patient with on dialysis. Because I mean, let's be honest, most of them 90% of them are in that predicament because they're non-compliant. So it gave me a area to where I can educate so much. One thing I love to do is educate. And so it gave me an opportunity to educate my patients on what to do. And then it because of what I went through, it kind of gave me a level of respect with the patients, because we all know when we try to tell a patient, hey, you don't need to do this, you don't need to do that, you gotta stop doing this, you gotta just stop doing it. The one thing they tell us is like, what you don't understand. You don't understand what I go through. You don't understand what I've been. I haven't done. But for me to come back and say, I actually do. I do understand where you're at and what you're going through. And then giving them my story is like, oh man, and you still working? And went through all that, it gave them an open ear to like, okay, I'm okay. I can listen to what you're saying. What I need to be doing. And I've seen so many patients turn their lives around just by listening to my education, and really us creating that rapport, because they see like, well, if you went through all that and you're still working, you're still smiling, you're still going throughout your day, me coming to my dialysis treatment 3 times a week, taking care of my diabetes, me taking care of my hypertension, like I can do that. That's something I can control. And so I just love it. I fell in love with it.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And what were you in the dialysis side prior to the heart failure or after the heart failure?
Prior to, I was doing acutes, and then after the health heart failure, I tried to go back into the acute scene, but it's very rapid, and you're moving long
Hmm.
hours and everything. And my husband's like, "What he told me, no, you're not gonna overwork yourself." So I transitioned into an in center dialysis, where it's kind of like, you have an open, you have a close, and it's not so chaotic. You have your same patients that coming in either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and that just kind of helped me with what I had going on with the appointments I needed. I could be able to schedule it better than the chaotic schedule I had in the hospital.
Sure. Yeah, girl, you're crazy. You're doing crazy things and you're doing great things. That is amazing. To talk a little bit more about your nursing side, has there ever been a point, or have you ever considered, I can probably guess the answer at this point, but has there ever been a point where you considered like leaving the nursing field because it was so bad or something was triggering or, whatever reason?
Yes. Oh, triggering is whew. So definitely after me being in the hospital, and going through all that, if you never been intubated, it is something. It's very uncomfortable. It's very like just painful. And I remember when I first went back into nursing and I told my mom and them they were checking on me, seeing how my headspace was like, are you sure you ready? I'm like, yeah, I think I'm ready. And my first patient that I had to go see was an intubated patient. And I walked in and just seeing that patient sitting there intubated, I literally just flipped. And I had to go out and like, so the family was sitting there and they just like, looking like, what
Yeah, they don't
did
know
she
what
see
to
something? What
think.
happened? I just had to like run out. I started hyperventilating and I'm calling my mom and I'm just like, she's intubated and it's just bringing up all these memories. I don't know what to do. Like, it was just so much. It was so overwhelming. And so she had to calm me down. I had to get help for that patient. But I got through it. And then it was one patient had to go in. They were in labor and delivery, and she was perfectly fine. It was nothing wrong with it. She was just delivering her baby. But seeing her starting to deliver her baby just brought back up so much. And the doctor in the labor and delivery, the doctor had to come out and was just like, "Are you okay?" And I'm just
Oh,
like, I'm not okay. And so I literally had to take a step back. Um, and because like I said, I was very confident in the hospital. Back out into the real world, it was like I had to take a lot of steps back of just like, okay, like, is this really what you can do? Like, how am I going to get over this? How am I going to get over looking at a patient or looking at what somebody's going through, what a patient may be dealing with, and not go back in time of when, yeah, I remember that with me. I remember that with me, and getting so overwhelmed and the anxiety builds up and everything. So I ended up talking to my manager at the time, and I was just like, I want to do this, and I feel like I need to do this. Like I'm assigned at this point to do this. So let me just take it slow. Um, I may can't do, too much critical people in the hospital, but let me just get some stable, but just need dialysis here and there. Like, let me start with that and kind of baby walk myself back into this. And with that, it was good. I end up getting over it. So now I can look at any patient and it doesn't trigger me, doesn't make me go back, doesn't make me flip. But that was another process I had to overcome and had to get over because of just the traumatic experience I had with my own experience in the hospital, and then going back into that field of nursing now as the nurse and not the patient. And it was hard for me not to compare that patient to me being a patient. But it took some time. It took some time.
yeah, I bet. And has that, like, I know you said that you're more positive and you definitely educate more, but has it changed any more of your perspective when you walk into those patient rooms?
Yes. Like I said, there was some good nursing done when I was in the hospital, but there were also some bad nursing done. And one of the biggest things was listening to the patient. Um, and again, I'm at fault at that, and them doing it to me is just like I'm mad, but I remember when I did that,
Oh
and I
no.
remember when I did listen to a patient. But that was the biggest thing, and staying and also um allowing the patient to truly be an advocate for themselves.
That's what I was going to ask
Um,
you next. Do you felt like you could be a true advocate for yourself?
yes. So I'm not even gonna lie. What I went through before I went into that hospital, I did have kind of like you can tell when your body is doing something like something's not right, but I'm not for sure what it is. And I did have that moment leading up to my induction date. Um, and I talked to my doctor, and he was just like, nope, everything was good, but deep inside of me, I knew something wasn't right. I knew it wasn't right. And I think that's why I had such a level of calm. Like, if you ask any of my family members, the calmness I had in the hospital, they were like, Tiffany, it was insane. Like, we're all going crazy. And the day after I gave birth, no, actually the night of when I gave birth to my baby, of course visitors came and everything like that, and they're talking to me, and I'm just telling them, yeah, they said I got heart failure, and they were just like, and you're okay with that? Like, you're not it doesn't bother you or anything like that. I'm just like, but it's because something inside of me, I knew something was wrong, but I'm just like, okay, if my doctor said is everything okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. Me being a nurse, knowing like Tiffany, you can advocate for yourself, but I get the when a medical professional is telling you no, everything's okay, you think as a patient, okay, I just go with what you're saying. Okay, I'm fine. And so now I'm telling my patients, when they come in and they're asking, even when it's simply a simple question of like, what does this dialysis machine actually do? And I go through a thorough breakdown of, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna, this blood comes out, and when it goes into this machine, this is like an artificial kidney, and I'm going through it, and like people look at me like, why are you taking so long to explain? I'm like, they have to be an advocate for themselves. You need to know what's going on, what's going on in your body, what medications are you taking, what are they for, what are they supposed to work for, what do you not, just like with me taking my warfarin, I know, okay, this kind of food I don't need to eat much of. If I do, then I know I need to raise this up. It's stuff like that that can help you in the long run than just to depend on a health professional. And so I'm always telling them, they will come in like, well, I don't want to get on anybody's nerves asking questions. I'm like, no, this is your life. Ask the questions. I'm always telling people, if I would have just went in there and asked the question, if I would have just said, hey, this, I know something is wrong, I just need you to do one more test, I just need you to run one more sample or something, maybe this right here wouldn't have happened. Even though I do feel hindsight that this was the purpose of, like, I was supposed to go through it, but just speaking of it, just, being a true advocate for yourself. Don't just take my word for it of just, you need this. Like, okay, why? What am I doing? What am I doing? This is something that diet wise I can change. But just really truly being on top of your health and being a true advocate for yourself. And then giving that voice to a patient that may not can advocate for themselves, but advocating for them, because I was in that spot of, when I'm intubated, I couldn't talk. I was sedated, so it took my family to advocate for me on what to do and what not to do. So it made me think about people that don't have a family, that is just them. And so I'm just like, what do you want? What are you wanting to do? And then we're going to move forward. And so, is that really helped me, to educate more on being an advocate, and also just, you know you're here. A lot of them think, okay, I'm on dialysis, this is the end point. And I'm just like, no, you're here. Now how are you going to make your life still great with dialysis? And I always tell them, don't allow dialysis to take over your life. Incorporate it in your life. I didn't allow heart failure and me being on an LVAD to take over my life. I incorporated it. I allowed it to, how do I work it in my schedule, in my daily life, to where I can continue on and I don't withhold anything from anybody. My family doesn't have to go without, they don't have to miss out because I'm on an LVAD and I have heart failure. How do I incorporate that into my life? And so I really like to talk to not even just my patients, but I also, am an ambassador for Abbott, who designs the LVADs. And all that is when, patients are in the hospital and they are candidates for an LVAD, they send me in to talk to them, to kind of, I tell them, oh, I'm not there to say you need to get an LVAD, do it now. It's just giving my story, giving what I went through, what how my life is with it, and it kind of helped them, because I was like, I remember that. I was like, I think God designed it to where how it happened for me, he did it for a reason, because I'm a type, I analyze everything. I need the root cause of everything that's going on. Like, okay, I understand we're doing this, but why? Let me
Hmm.
let me get to the root of it. And so them just coming to me and say, you need an LVAD. Okay, for what? What are we doing? What's the purpose? What is? And so I think it was me going to heart failure, just had a baby, intubated, sedated, dying, and it's just like, get the LVAD. Okay, get the LVAD. And I didn't have no space to like analyze, to really think about my other options. Like, I was dying. And I tell the patients, they're like, you have time to think about it. I said, I didn't. And I think it was by design, because I do like to analyze stuff. I said, but I'm here to just show you, this is life on the LVAD. It's not a death sentence. It doesn't mean your life is over. It doesn't mean that, oh, I have heart disease, so now I just have to sit in the house and look at the four walls. No, you can live and be living with heart disease. You can live and be living on an LVAD. You just have to make that choice.
So if you wanted to educate first responders on LVAD, what are the important things that you would know?
So I did find out, which I'm still researching. When I first got an LVAD, it was no resuscitation. You can't do CPR on an LVAD. Now they're changing it to where you can. I haven't got much research on it because I was trying. I said I like the root causes. I'm like, okay, but why now? Like, why at first they couldn't and now we can? But they were saying that it doesn't cause any harm to start CPR on an LVAD patient. The biggest thing is the safety because with this cord coming out of your well, mine is out of my stomach. Some of them is mine's on the side of my stomach on the left, some is in the middle. It just depends on where they place the cords or where it comes out at. So being mindful of that. The biggest thing I struggle with going into the airport, which I get it, they got to be cautious. But of
Yeah.
course, like when I'm going through to get checked, I can't go. They don't like me to go under the little thing to get one side. They want me to get pat down. So every time I go and I'm standing, they always tell me to wait till somebody come get me so they can pat me down. But of course, I have my bag on me because it's my LVAD. And so before I go, I had gotten to the point where somebody had jacked me up. Like I'm walking with the person and like, ma'am, you gotta take your bag back. And I'm like, it's an LVAD. It's a bad. I was like, okay. And I just told my husband we had just came back from Florida, my brother's wedding in October. And I told him, I said, I don't know if I need to put something on her, or like medical device or something to where when they see it, they know like she's not just trying to walk in with her purse. And I'm just like, because of course, when it's you, I'm thinking like, y'all, it's obvious. Like, why would I walk in with a bag through surveillance? And I know but I'm like, but them, all they just doing, they're just doing their job.
So is that something that you're ever afraid of? Is somebody maybe grabbing hold of that bag or your one of your tubes or something and pulling them?
Yeah, so that was the biggest thing. Like, and the crazy thing is, my husband when I first kind of got because it took me a little while to get from out the house and be scared in the house and just going out and living life and walking and everything. And he was just like, he admitted to me, he was like, my biggest fear is that like even though I never got purse jacked ever, he was like, what if somebody just comes and thinks it's your purse and just like yanks it from you? And then here they go yanking your cord and everything. And I'm just like, yeah, I get that. But so I try to like always be cautious where I'm at. And like if I'm addressing like some of my patients, if I'm addressing them, I'm always like this side so that my bag and everything is on that side. And then of course, like so my work life, everybody knows what it is. Because I got so many comments of, do you not trust anybody? Like, why do you carry your purse around all the time? Like, you don't want nobody to know you got money. I'm like, y'all know this is not. And so I'm like, it forced me to like tell all my patients like this is an LVAD. So I'm teaching them what I have and everything. So they're always really cautious of that. But I'm always cautious when I'm in the car. Um, that where I place my LVAD. That and I always think things through of like, hey, if I'm driving, and say I get in a car wreck, like where's my LVAD gonna place to where it's not from, because I have it in a little purse. If you see, I have it in a purse. So if I'm driving and I have a car wreck and a first responder comes to me and say I have it taken off and it's just on my side, I'm in the car and my bag is right here, they can easily mistake it for just a purse and try to jank it out, and it's on me. So I'm always cautious to making sure I keep it on me. So wherever I'm at, if I'm thrown out, if I'm, it's still attached to me. So I would say always be mindful of before yanking, pulling, see what's on their body, what's on them. Make sure they don't have any cords or lines that are coming out that you could possibly pull or yank on. Because these I have yanked it before. We do keep a anchor on it, but oh my gosh, I've ran into a doorknob and it just clicked on it just perfectly while I'm yanked back and have to go back and everything. So I'll always be mindful of that. That we are on warfarin, so we're at high risk for bleeding. So that's the most important thing. Head injuries, I'm always bruised up. My husband's always like, they're gonna think I'm beating you, how much bruises you have on your arm. And it's always something like when summertime when we're out or something. That's when I get the most bruising. I have them all on my arms and everything. He's like, people are gonna think that I am really at the house abusing you. And I always tell him, don't make me mad because I will. Hey, look at these ones. But
I got evidence.
bleeding is a big thing. Yes, bleeding is a big thing. With the LVAD patient, so you always want to make sure there wasn't no head injury, no bumping or anything like that that could cause a brain bleed.
Okay, that's really great advice. The like watching what you're tugging when you're pulling people out of the car, right? Because when people get excited, they're like, get the patient out, get the patient out. So they're hurrying to do that. And I think you guys still carry the cards, right? The LVAD cards.
Not much. So I used to have mine, but see, it's just like I lost it. But
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
phone has a feature on there. I recommend everybody go onto their emergency app, and you can put in there like it has my emergency contact who to call, and then I was able to put in there LVAD patient. And I think, and I, you know what, and I don't think I updated it, but I put on there when I first got it. Like now I can't find it. When I first got it, I put on there LVAD patient, do not resuscitate, do not start CPR, because I'm just like I want to make sure whoever gets it, they know like, which I'm thinking like because it's not very known. I'm like, who's gonna get my phone? I'm like, let's look at the data before we touch her. But I do have it on there. Um, but that's a good thing. I think so like for dialysis we have little wristbands that they wear
Mm-hmm.
on their access sites that says, no blood pressure, no needle sticks and everything. But I think it would be a good idea to get like wristbands to make. I think that would be easier for me to keep up with a wristband than trying to keep up with my car. Like they gave me that in the hospital 7 years ago, and it could be in my wallet. I'm not even gonna say that it is or not, but that actually, and I'm always telling them, my coordinators and stuff, like even with our bag, with the bag that I carry, most of the LVAD carrying bags and stuff are just so they're ugly, they're
Yeah.
big and bulky, and I hate them. I'm like, y'all do not think about everybody when y'all design these things. So I decided just I make little backpacks. And my mother-in-law, she's a seamstress, so she sews like little zippers in to where I can put my batteries in and have my cord coming out and all that. And then also I just on days that I'm not working, I wear a purse and put it in. So I'm always like giving them ideas. They was like, okay, well we're gonna start telling our other patients ways. Can we take pictures so they can see like different ways? Because a lot of women they stress out on how can I make this look feminine? How can I make this look, if I want to wear a dress, if I want to wear this, like, how do I make this bag look like something? So I always send them pictures and like show them like different things that I do. So I'm always giving them ideas like maybe we need to, talk to them about doing this. So I'm definitely going to bring that up of like maybe having like little wristbands of just saying like LVAD patient to where you can put that on, and like if you are in a car wreck or something's happening to you anywhere, they know, okay, you're LVAD, there's something special, maybe some special considerations for you being an LVAD. I'm gonna tell them about this, Sam.
As long as
Um,
you mention
when you
me while
see
you're
when
there.
you see LVAD braces come out, just know.
All right, all right. That's awesome, Tiffany. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to do any shout outs or to talk about anything that you'd like to talk about.
Oh, so well, I would like to say that again, shout out to you, Sam. 911 nonsense. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm always honored to be able to share my story. And it's just like, and it's not to go through, for I went through all this and I'm a warrior, but it's really just using my story as a purpose. My main goal is always to help other nurses, help patients, I always just extra reiterate that it's important to listen to your patients. Um, I always try to put myself in my patient's shoes. And well, I used to. Now being a patient, I kind of I can see where they're coming from when they say, I'm tired, or I don't want to do this today, or why do I always got to do this? Why I always got to be the one to, I sympathize with them. And so instead of just always lecturing them, I kind of meet them where they are, and try to find ways that I can educate, but make it easier for them to retain, or make it better, or fun for them to receive what I'm saying, whatever. So always just listen to your patients. Do not ignore them. It was a lot of times in the hospital that I was, just ignored, or, she doesn't want anything. Um, but and know that just because they're in a coma, sedative coma, does not mean they can't hear. Just because they're not talking or they're intubated does not mean they don't have feelings and they cannot hear. Always show great bedside manners. No matter how frustrating, nursing can be very frustrating. Medical field period is very frustrating. But we have stated that we want to provide a service. We said that we vowed to provide a service, and so that's what we always need to keep in the forefront of our minds. Whether it's educating, or whether it's somebody needs to go to the bathroom 50 times, you have to keep getting up and taking them to the bathroom. Like, that's our service. And I was just always thinking them as like, if this was my mom, if this was my dad, if this was me, how would I want to be treated? That's where I'm at now after going to the hospital. Like, as a patient, how did I want to be treated? How did I want my nurse to react to me? How did I want my nurse to educate me? So that's why I use that. But you can also follow me on Instagram. I have Instagram, and it's Tiffany.Cannon_journey. And I am trying to, and this is kind of a new transition for me, that I'm starting this page, because what I've been getting a lot of is when people hear my story, it just stops at going home and I'm living, but it's just like, what are you doing now? Like, what is your day to day with an LVAD? Like, we want to see that. So I'm started a new page, and it's just like a day to day, because I feel like every day is a new lesson of LVAD, and so I'm excited to start that. Again, like I said, I am an ambassador of LVAD, for LVAD, and love to educate patients that are transitioning to LVAD or possibly transitioning to LVAD. And I can be reached on my email at tiffany.cannonjourney@gmail. And then I also have a book out. I'm also an author, yay. And you can get it on Amazon, and the title of it is A Journey Through Supernatural Healing. And of course, everybody's like, but you still have an LVAD, so were you really healed? But it walks through my journey of being in the hospital. Well, first, find out I had going through heart failure, giving birth to my baby girl, and it's just kind of a walkthrough of me. Like I said, it was a lot of things I had to process, a lot of things I had to get over, and so it was a lot of internal healing that I had to do. Not so much as a physical healing for my heart, but it was so much that I didn't know that I was struggling with. It was so much that I didn't know that was inside of me that I had to get healed from. And I feel like this journey, going from the hospital back home and just living life, whatever, because I tell everybody, when you have a life and death situation, it definitely changes a lot of perspective for you, where you start looking at things a lot differently. And so this is what this book is about. And it also gives hope to people that, you may be in a rough spot, rough patch, and you're just wondering, like, how can I get out of this, or what can I do? Or even if you're in with nursing, and it's just like, okay, I'm hitting a rough patch where this is just not working for me. We've all been there, where you're just in the
Mm-hmm.
medical field and just like, this is frustrating. I mean, COVID was an example of its own. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is so much like, what can I do? And it just kind of gives hope to, like, any situation that, if you stay focused, stay prayed up, and you continue to be the good person and do your purpose, everything will work out as it should be.
Awesome. And we will be looking forward to finding you. And I look forward to seeing your day-to-day videos and your messages and everything about your LVAD experience. I think that's wonderful. I mean, it's terrible that you got put in that situation, but it's wonderful the outlook that you have on it. And I'm curious, if you could go back and change the outcome, if you could catch it in time, would you change this whole life?
A lot of people ask me that, and crazy enough, nope, wouldn't change it. Wouldn't change it one bit. If I could have stopped it, because in this situation, I see the better person that has came out of it. And like I said, during this journey is stuff that I just didn't realize about myself that I do now and that I was able to change and heal from. Um, and I like this new version of me. So I wouldn't change it a bit. My biggest thing that I am making sure I stay on top of is the fact that this heart failure and everything came in the bundle of me giving birth to my baby girl. So I never want her to feel that it was my fault that my mommy is like this or she's going through this. So I'm always, now that she's 7, and so she's kind of understanding more of like, okay, I know my mom has a machine, and I'm talking to her more about, what happened and everything, and I'm always telling her, you're not the reason. You're not, even if I wasn't pregnant with you, I feel like this still would have happened. So you're not at fault, and mommy still loves you. And if I had to go back and change anything, I wouldn't, because I'm happy with where I'm at. I'm happy with my soul, and I'm happy with the person that I am today. So I would not change a thing.
You are a phenomenal person, Tiffany, and I appreciate you coming on to the 911 Nonsense podcast. This has been an amazing conversation. Definitely, I would even go out to say life-changing. This has been what an amazing, amazing conversation. I appreciate you coming on and chatting with me and sharing your story, Tiffany. You are wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Again, I appreciate it. Such an honor. Such an honor.
Awesome. I hope you have a good day, Tiffany.
You do the same. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're enjoying the show and want to show your support, be sure to check out the new merch store on Bonfire. Find the link in the description below. Also, if you have any guest suggestions or if you're interested in being a guest on Noon yourself, visit the website at www.samspursuit.com to get in touch.